हेलो बच्चों, कैसे हो? आपका स्वागत है त्रिपाण स्टडी सेंटर में। आज जो हम करने जा रहे हैं क्लास 10th का जो है चैप्टर नंबर 7 सोशल साइंस का यानी सामाजिक विज्ञान का, जिसमें आज हम करेंगे चैप्टर 7 में पॉपुलर रेजिस्टेंस टू बी द ब्रिटिश रूल, यानी ब्रिटिश शासन के विरुद्ध लोकप्रिय जन प्रतिरोध, यानी ब्रिटिश के रिगार्डिंग कौन कौन से जन प्रतिरोध हुए उसके विषय में हम विस्तारपूर्वक चर्चा करेंगे। और ये टॉपिक जो है रहेगा हर एक मानने में हर एक बच्चों के लिए महत्वपूर्ण रहेगा, चाहे वो सीबीएसई के बच्चे हों, चाहे एनआईएस बोर्ड के बच्चे हों, चाहे यूपी बिहार बोर्ड के बच्चे हों। जो भी बच्चे हैं जिनके सिलेबस में पॉपुलर रेजिस्टेंस टू बी देयर ब्रिटिश रूल है, तो इसका मतलब ये टॉपिक काफ़ी महत्वपूर्ण होने वाला है उनके लिए, और साथ में जो कंपटीशन की तैयारी कर रहे हैं उनके लिए भी महत्वपूर्ण ये साबित होगा। ठीक है, और इसमें हम हर एक पहलू पर विस्तारपूर्वक चर्चा करेंगे और जानने की कोशिश करेंगे। लेकिन आपको पता है, चैप्टर स्टार्ट करने से पहले एक बात जो मैं सदैव कहता हूँ, जिसको आपको सोचना भी चाहिए, विचार भी करना चाहिए और इवन अमल भी करना चाहिए, वो ये है कि जब भी वीडियो देखिए पूरा देखिए, क्योंकि अधूरा जानकारी सदैव खतरनाक होता है। साथ में एक इंपॉर्टेंट बात ये भी रहता है, अगर आप पहली बार वीडियो देख रहे हो तो लाइक शेयर सब्सक्राइब करना मत भूलना, क्योंकि दोस्तों लाइक कीजिएगा तो बनाने वाले का मनोबल बढ़ता है, सब्सक्राइब कीजिएगा तो इससे ये होता है कि जब भी मैं कोई वीडियो डालूंगा उसका नोटिफिकेशन आपको समय रहते मिल जाएगा। और देखिए, शेयर का मतलब ये होता है कि आपके थ्रू न जाने किन बच्चों को हेल्प मिल जाए, ये आप भी नहीं जानोगे, इसलिए जो है आप शेयर जरूर करो। ठीक है, व्हाट्सएप स्टेटस पे भी लगाओ। दोस्तों आरएनएस सेंटर जो है कई मानने में बहुत से बच्चों के लिए हेल्पफुल है, चाहे वो 8th क्लास हो, 9th 10th 11th 12th हो, चाहे वो एनआईएस बोर्ड के बच्चे हों, ठीक है, चाहे बीए एमए के बच्चे हो, सभी क्लासों के लिए कुछ ना कुछ जो है त्रिपाण सेंटर में उपलब्ध है। तो इसलिए आपके लिए ज़रूरी है कि आप सब्सक्राइब करके इसको चैनल को जो है सेव कर लो, नहीं तो बाद में अगर रिसर्च करोगे तो शायद आपको ये चैनल प्राप्त ना हो। तो इसलिए सोचना नहीं, विचार नहीं करना है, सब्सक्राइब करके जो है अपने पास सेव करना है। दोस्तों ये तो बात था आपके लिए, लेकिन अब देखते हैं हमारा आज टॉपिक क्या है। Our next topic is important here, peasant movement and travels revolt in the 19th century. There is a most important moment on this period time here. The peasant means farmer movement and travels revolt in 19th century. You know that you would be surprised to know that beginning with the sannyasi rebellings and Chor uprising of Bengal and Bihar in the 1760s, and there was hardly a year without any army position from there 1763 to 1856. There were more than 40 major rebellions apart from 100 of minor ones. There are 40 major rebellions and 100 of minor ones. And these rebellions were, however, locals in a character and effects. They were isolated from each other because each rebellion has a different motive. We will now read more about this moment in the next section of this lesson. Here show the most important map of here 1767 to 1857. There is a Veal, Jantia, Indo-Santhal, Kol Mundra, Kal Sannyas, and Mapila Peligara. There is the most important moment slot on your screen in the map. First topic arrive here, Peasant Revolt means farmer revolt. In an area lesson, you read about their various land settlement and the vast effect they had on the Indian peasantry. The permanent settlement had made to the Jamidar the owner of the land, but this land could be a short of it if a failed to pay the revenue on time. There is a fail revenues on the time, and this forced the Jamidar and the landlord to extract money from their peasants, even if there is a crops failed. There is a peasant even if their crops fail, and these peasants often is borrowed is the money from there is a money lender who were also called to the Mahajans. The impoverished peasant could be never pay back this borrowed money, and this lead to money hardship like a stem their poverty and began forced to be worked as abandoned laborers. Hence, the lowers and the exploited classes often to attack their exploiters, and failure to play by the jamidar also mean that the land would be taken away by the British. The British then would be actions this land to be higher border. There is a highest border, and who often come from the urban area. The new jamidar from the cities had little or no interest in the land, and they did not invest money in a seed and fertilizer to improve the fertilizers of the land, but only carried to be collect as much revenue as they could. And this proved extractability for the peasant who remained to backward and stagnant. To get out of situation, the peasant now started to producing a commercial crop like indigo, sugarcane, jute, cotton, opiums, and so on it. This was the beginning of the commercialization of agriculture. That is the beginning of commercializations of agriculture. The peasants now depended on the merchant, traders, and middlemen to sell their product during to the harvest time. As they shifted to the commercially, crop, food, grain production went to down, and less food stock and led to the famines. It was therefore not surprising that the hungry peasant revolted. Let us read more about there some peasants revolt which took place on the account of the British policies. First year, the Fakir and Sannyasi rebellion. The Fakir and Sannyasi rebellion. The 1770, 1820th centuries. The establishment of the British controller over Bengal after 1757 and lead to increase in a land revenue and the exploitation of the peasant. The Bengal famine of 1770 lead to peasant whose their land were conflicted, displaced and jamidars and disbanded soldiers and poor to become together in a rebellion. They were joined by the Sannyasi and Fakir. The Fakirs were a group of wandering Muslim religious and mendicant in Bengal. The famous Hindu leader who is supported them were Bhavani Pathaks and the woman Devi Chaudharani. They attacked English factories and seized there is the goods, cash, arms and ammunition. Madhum Shah was one of their prominent leaders. And they were finally both under control by the British at the beginning of the 19th century. The Sannyasi uprising took place of Bengal between to the period of 1770 to 1820. The Sannyasi rose is a rebellion after the great famine of 1770 in the Bengal, which the Kosi actually chose as a ministry. And however, the immediate causing of the rebellion was the restriction imposed by the British upon pilgrims visiting the holy place among the both Hindu and Muslims. The next year, the Indigo rebellions. There are Indigo rebellions. There is a time period here, 1859 to 1862. The British adopted many ways thought which they could be increase their profit, and they also started interfering with their basis of means of livelihood of a people. Not only there is introduced new crop, they also is about new techniques of farming. Heavy pressure was put on their jamidar and peasant to pay high taxes and grow commercial crop. One such a commercial crop was indigo. Indigo is here a commercial crop, and the cultivation of indigo was determined by the need of English cloth market. The indigo used here a need for the English cloth market, and the discontent of the farmer growing to indigo was mainly for three reasons. First reason here, there was a very low prices for growing indigo. Second here, Indigo was not a lucrative as it was planted at the same time a food crop and loss of fertility of soil because of planting indigo. There is a most important three reason for the farmers growing to indigos here. Here show the most important Bengal's map. The area of indigo revolt in a Bengal 1859 to 62. The Malda, Rajshahi, Pahana, Dakkas, Nadia, and so this is the most important part here. The area of indigo revolt in a Bengal. As a result, food stock are declined. There is a food stock decline. The peasants suffering at the hand of the trader and the middleman of whom there is a dependent to the sale their good and sometime at a very low price because their land is a loss of fertility and there is the growing of indigo crop. They supported the Jamidar to maintain their dominance and the deals with their problem in administering those areas. The peasants launched a movement for a non-cultivation of indigo in Bengal. Here, peasant farmers launched the movement of non-cultivations of indigo in Bengal. Hindu and Muslim peasants together went on strike and the failed case against the planter and they were supported by the press and missionaries. There is a supported here press and missionaries. The government passed order to the November 1860 notified that will be illegal to force the rare to be cultivated of indigo and this market the victory for the rebel. In this picture on your screen, the indigo cultivation Bengal. The indigo cultivation Bengal show unique picture. There is the most important indigo. The indigo used are the many making of cloth of England factories. The next year, for us this moment, there is a period time here 1838 to 1848 and this was the first ever no tax campaigns against the British government led by the Saristullah Khan and Dadu Men. There is a band of the volunteers fought heroically with their armed group of indigo planter and Jamidar. It's brought together all the cultivator of Bengal against the tyrannies and illegal extraction by the landlords. The next moment here, Wahhabi movement. Wahhabi movement, there is a time period here, 1830 to 1860. The leader of movement was Sahel Ahmad Barelvi and the real Barelis who is greatly influenced by the teaching of Abdul Behwal and Arabia Asa Balungullah and their Sant. The movement was primarily religious in its origin. It is soon assumed there is a character of the class struggle in some place, especially in Bengal. Irrespective of commercial distractions and peasant united against there is a landlord. The next point here, significance of peasant revolt. The aggressive economical policy of the British shattered the traditional agrarian system of India and worsened the condition of peasant. The peasant revolt taking place in the various parts of country were mainly or directly aid this policy. Third, this revolt were not be aimed at the uprooting the British rule from India and they create awareness among the Indians. They now felt a need to organize and fight against the exploitations and operations. In short, these rebellions prepared the ground for a various and uprisings such as a Sikh war in Punjab and finally the revolt of 1857. Next point here, tribal revolt. Tribal revolt, there is the most important revolt here. Among the group of people who revolted against the British rule were the tribals. The tribals is a group where is important and integrated part of Indian life. Before their annexations and subsequent as incorporations in the British territory, they had their own social and economical system. And this system were traditional and nature and satisfy their needs of the tribals. Such a community was headed by their chief who managed the affair of the community. They also enjoy the independence regarding their management of their affair. The land and the forest and their main sources of the livelihood. The forest provided them with the basic items which they required for the survive. The two tribal communities remain the isolated from their non-tribals. That's important. Their land forests were a main source of livelihood. The forest provided them with the basic item which they required for the survive. The British policy proved to harmful to the tribal society. There is a harmful to their tribal society. This destroyed there is a relatively self-sufficient economics and communities. The tribal group or a different reason revolted against the British. This movement were anti-colonial in nature because there is a direct against to colonial administration. The tribals used the traditional weapon, mainly as bow and the arrow, and for the turn to the violence. The British had the lead several with them, and they were declared criminals and antisocial. Their properties was the confiscated, and there was imprisoned. There are many of them were hanged. The travels is a moment the Indians remained the confined to some reasons only, but it did not be lag behind other social group as a regard of participation in the anti-colonial movements. We shall be now read about there are some major travels revolt that took place against the British rule. Come and see here. The first year, the Santhal rebellions. The Santhal rebellions, there's a period time 1855 to 57. The area of a concentration of the Santhals was called Daman-e-Khol and Santhal Pargana. Santhal Pargana it is extended from to the Bhagalpur in the Bihar in the north to be Orissa in the south, stretching from the Hazaribagh to be there is a border of Bengal. The Santhal, like other tribes, is working hard to maintain there is a live in the forest and wild jungle. They cultivated the land and lived a peaceful life which is continued till there are British officials and bowed them to leaders as a money launder and jamidar and merchant. There is made to buy good on the crate and forced to pay a back with a heavy interest during the harvesting time. As a result, whereas sometimes force a giver Mahajan not only their crops but also plug to the bulk and finally their land. Their plug of bulk and finally their land. Very soon, they because a bonded is a laborers and there could be served only there is a creator. The peaceful travels community were now up in arms against the British official, Jamidar and many lender who were exporting them. And Siddh and Kanu were leading a Santhal revolt leaders. There are Siddhu and Kanu where is leading a Santhal revolt leaders. They give a heroic fight of the British government. Unfortunately, their Santhal rebellion was crushed in an equal battle, but it became a source of inspirations for the future against struggles. On your screen, there is a most important the travels rebellions. There is the Tirka Manjui. Tirka Manjui, the most important tribe revolt here. And the second year, Munda rebellions. Munda rebellion, there is one most important tribe revolt here. 1899 to 90, one of the most important and prominent rebellions which took place after 1857 was a Munda rebellion. The Mundas are traditionally enjoy created right as the original clearance of the forest, which was not given to be other tribes. But this land system was getting destroyed in their hands of their merchant and money lender, long before the coming of the British. But when the British actually come into this area, they help it to be destroy this system with the rapid pace when they induce a contractor and traders. And this contractor and needed to people to work with them and is in natures of their labors. In the natures of labor, and these are discolation the mundas and the hand of the British and their contractor and give the birth to be a Munda rebellion. There is a Munda rebellions. The most prominent leader of the rebellions was Virsa Munda, who was more aware than the other as had received some education from the missionaries. He encouraged their tribes people to keep the tradition of worshipping of the scarecrows alive. This move was very important to the prevent the British and from taking over their wasteland. For this, Birsa Munda is a fought against their moneylender, Mahajan, and English official. He attacked police station, churches, and missionaries. There is the most important rebellion here, Munda rebellion. There is attack the police station, churches, and missionaries. Unfortunately, there is a rebel where is defected and Munda died in a prison some after in the 19th century. But this sacrifice did not be go in vain. The Chota Nagpur Tenancy Act of 1908 provided some land ownership right to people and banned bonded labor of the tribal. And Virsa Munda became to the architects of Munda rebellions and somebody who is remembered even today. On your screen, there is the most important rebellions, Birsa Munda. Birsa Munda is the most important person on the rebellion of their British ruler. The next year, Janatha and Garo rebellions. There is the most important year, Janatha and Garo rebellion. There is a period time, sir, 1860 to 1870s. After the first Anglo-Burmese war, the British planned to the construction of the road connected to the Brahmaputra Valley at present day Assam. There is a present Assam with the satellite of present day of Bangladesh. The Janthais and the Goras is the northern eastern part of India and present day is a Meghalaya. Opposed the construction of this road which was strategic of importance to the British for the movement of troops. In 1827, the Janthas tried to stop work and soon their unrest spread to be a Navarings and Garos Hill, alarming the British born several Janthas and Garo villages. The hostilities increased with the introduction of house tax and income tax by the British in the 1860s. On your screen, there is the most important Ukinga Non-Goba Memorial. That is the most important on this period time here. The next year, the uprising of the wheel. The uprising of the wheel, there is a two class here. The 1818 to 1813, the wheels were largely concentrated the Khanades and other present there Maharashtra and Gujarat. Khanades, there is the most important state, Maharashtra and Gujarat. Khanades has come under the British occupation in 1880. 1818, the Wheels is considered them as an outsider. On the instigations of Prima Bhukis is a Labour's Minister of Bazairo. Bazairo is their second and they revolted against their British. This is important. And the next year, the Coal Uprising. Coal Uprising is 1831 to 1832. The cause of Sigabhaum and the Chota Nagpur are area enjoyed the autonomies under their chief, but the entry of the British threatened their independence. Later, the transfer of travels as a lands and the coming of the moneylender. The merchant and British law create a lot of tension, and this promoted there is a call tribe to be organized as himself and rebel. The impact was such as that the British had to rush troops as formidable for of place to suppress it. And the next year, The Mapila Uprising. Mapila Uprising is 1836 to 1854. The Mapila where is the Muslims cultivating tents and landless laborers and of fishermen and the laborer as a reason the British occupation of the Malabar regions and their new land law along with there is a cities of the landlord mainly to Hindus and lead to the Mafilas to be revolt against them and took many years for the British to crush the Mafilas. That's important here.